In the judgment ceremony of the Sighart family, the children's mana purity and mana attribute were to be revealed to determine who is worthy of the name of the family with the strongest sword masters and aura users. The first boy goes near the giant stone sword, and the sword shines with a green aura, showing that he has a wind attribute and higher than average mana purity. Next, a girl comes, and the sword releases a blue aura, even better than before, making everyone extremely happy that the family has found another prodigy. Finally, Raon's turn comes. The patriarch tells him to move forward. As soon as Raon touches the sword, it only releases a faint white aura, which is considered the weakest. Others start mocking him, but the patriarch silences them and ends the ceremony quickly. When the hall empties and only the patriarch and his servant remain, the giant sword suddenly shines again. This time with the blazing golden fire aura, the same power the founder of the Sighart family had, which could melt anything. The patriarch is stunned, wondering how powerful Raon could become. But even the patriarch doesn't know who Raon really is. He is the reborn strongest assassin, who was betrayed by his own master. On a cold night, the best assassin of the Shadow Group meets his master Darius Robert. The master has learned that Raon has freed himself from mind control and wants to know how he did it. House Robert turns kidnapped children into emotionless assassins, and Raon had broken the mind shackle by accident during a mission. When Raon asks how Darius found out, Darius explains that every assassin has two shackles, the mind shackle and another. Suddenly, a sharp pain rises in Raon's chest, and Darius reveals the second shackle, the rage worm, implanted inside assassins, which can devour the heart on the master's command. As the worm begins to eat his heart, Raon vows he won't die like a dog and will at least leave a mark on Darius. He picks himself up to charge, but is instantly decapitated. Still, Darius is in shock because Raon succeeded in wounding him. He orders the other assassins to dispose of the dead body and leaves. Raon's fading consciousness is filled with rage as he remembers the life Darius stole from him. In his last breath, he prays to any god or demon for a chance at revenge. Suddenly, the trinket on his neck begins to glisten, and a strange screen shows that a being named Wrath has chosen him. But before Wrath can descend, Raon's body dies and the process is cut short. Sometime later, a young woman is playing with her child whom she calls Sunshine. That child is Raon, reincarnated into the family of this woman Sylvia. Raon retains his assassin memories. Initially he thought it was a dream, but slowly he accepts it is a new life from which he isn't waking up. In playful chatter, Sylvia tells him that the lord of the house hasn't come to give him a proper name yet, unaware that Raon understands everything she says. Raon thinks that 100 days have passed since his birth, so why hasn't the lord come? It is clear to him that he was born into a rich and prestigious family, which is an advantage for his revenge. He has never been outside the building, so he doesn't know his status in the family. Moreover, he is unable to master the Flame Link's technique, so revenge against Darius is still far off. Suddenly, the maid Helen arrives and says the Lord has returned. Sylvia tries to get ready, but it's too late as the Lord enters through the main door. The man enters the room with a strong aura, and Raon recognizes him immediately. Sylvia calls him father, meaning he is Raon's grandfather. Seeing his features, Raon confirms that this is none other than Glenn Sighart, the Northern Lord of Destruction, the apex of the continent. Raon realizes he was born into the most powerful family on the continent. Glenn names him Raon, the same name from his previous life, and tells him to live as if he doesn't exist. That same night, Raon finally finds himself alone and cultivates flame links. Normal techniques involve inhaling mana and storing it in a core. But flame links create circular links around the heart, increasing stamina, focus, and mana affinity while remaining hidden from transcendent beings. He only needs to increase his strength and focus, and learn Sighart sword techniques so his revenge plan can be foolproof. But there's a problem. His new body's mana circuits are filled with destructive chill. Almost 9 circuits are blocked, and he could die soon. He must break them with flame links. He cultivates for a long time, and finally collapses while fighting off sleep. He is lucky he fell asleep, because Lord Glenn enters the room and releases his aura over the sleeping child. The next morning, Raon resumes his baby duties. Every day he crawls a little more to impress his mother. He finds acting like an infant more painful and would rather endure the destructive chill. A little later, Sylvia receives a special visitor, a family friend whom Raon recognizes. Ragged Saint, his divine power and medicinal knowledge are beyond comprehension, and he is considered the greatest healer on the continent. He says he heard Sylvia had a baby and came to check. He looks at the baby and says he looks like Sylvia, and is the exact opposite of his grumpy grandpa. When he hears that Glenn named the child Yahaan, which means shadow, he gets angry and wonders why Glenn did that. Their informal tone confirms they are old friends. After a health check, the saint tells Sylvia that the child has the curse of bitter frost. His mana circuits are blocked by chill, and his chances of becoming a swordsman are very low. If he doesn't receive treatment, he won't live long. Sylvia is shocked and denies it, but the saint ignores her and says he will bring medicine. A maid comes to say the Lord is calling him. The saint leaves the room. Yahaan feels relieved to have a name for the condition and starts thinking about how to handle it. Suddenly, a tear falls on his face. He looks up. Sylvia is crying and says it can't be true. She says she won't let him die. For the first time, a strange pain rises in Yahaan's heart. He realizes he feels bad because he doesn't want to see Sylvia cry. He reaches out his hand, wipes her tear, and for the first time says, "Mama." This proved to be the final threat for Sylvia, and ignoring the maid's protests, she burst into the room where the Lord and the saint were talking. Lord Glenn becomes angry at her abrupt entry, but Sylvia bows and pleads to save her son Yahaan's life. Her plea continues for some time, but Lord Glenn says in a cold voice that it is pointless to save such a boy who cannot become a warrior and will be of no use to the house. When Sylvia reminds him that the boy is his grandson, Glenn sticks to his first statement and orders the guards to drag her out. The guards drag her away, and the saint calls the Lord a stubborn fool. The saint later reveals that Glenn had called him to the palace because he had seen the same problem in the child. Glenn does not answer and asks him to continue his report. The saint explains that the boy's mana circuits are blocked and growing up in this condition will be dangerous. Glenn's aura had pushed back some of the chill, so he would be temporarily fine, but it would not increase the chances of him becoming a warrior. Then, in a strange twist, Glenn says it doesn't matter as long as the child survives. The saint taunts him that he is hiding the love present for his grandson by putting on a harsh exterior. When the saint asks why he chose a name like Shadow, Glenn explains that many years ago the meaning of this name used to be exactly the opposite. A few days later, Sylvia gives Yahaan the elixir that the saint had left. Yahaan is happy because the fire-based elixir will help push back the chill in his mana circuits. Years pass and Yahaan turns 5 years old. A system notification tells him that he has completed his second flame link, which has increased his soul rank, mana affinity, focus and stamina. This news gives him great pleasure, and he suspects that his fast progress is due to the system messages. The system is visible only to him and appeared immediately after birth, allowing him to check his status. The problem is that there hasn't been much improvement in his stamina and curse, and he has only survived because of the elixir and the care of Sylvia and the maid Helen. He understands that he is only 5 years old and has time. He was the greatest assassin of his previous life, and now with the help of the flame cultivation technique, he can overshadow his weaknesses, especially once he masters the Sieghart swordsmanship style. He understands that there is only one weapon to defeat transcendence like Darius, patience. A little later, Sylvia lets him change clothes because they have to go to a special place today. To understand the discernment ceremony, one must know that the continent's balanced forces are divided among 6 lords and 5 demons. Yahaan was born in the house of one of those 6 lords. The lords maintain a positive influence while demons threaten peace. The purpose of the ceremony is to identify jewels among stones. Today is the ceremony of House Sieghart. Upon reaching the venue, people look at Sylvia and her son with contempt and say bad things about their health. They even call Sylvia a failure. Some protest that letting a failure's child come to the ceremony is unfair, but Sylvia ignores everything and moves forward. Yahaan is affected by these things, but Sylvia says to just focus on her. A little later, the Lord arrives, and this is the first time Yahaan has seen him in 5 years. As the Lord takes his seat, a giant sword called the Sword of Discernment falls in the middle of the chamber, and the order to start the ceremony is given. This sword can reveal any child's full mana potential. The first child, Warren Sieghart, is called. The ceremony is held for young children because after age 4, the skull's sutures close and mana potential is sealed. Warren touches the sword, and the sword emits high-quality light from every part, which people consider expected for Lord Karun's son. Then Runan Slan, daughter of the vassal house Slezan, comes. Purity of mana is the amount of light, and the element is also visible. Runan also gives a bright result and is called a prodigy. Yahaan understands that the crowd is crazy about results, but he guesses that his result will be bad due to his circuits being chilled, even though he has completed the second flame link. When Yahaan is called, many people look at him with disdainful eyes. Reaching the sword, Yahaan thinks it would be foolish to have high expectations, just knowing the element is enough. As soon as he touches the sword, a strange fire erupts from it that enchants him. Suddenly he sees visions, terrible monsters and a young warrior among them. He sees that the monsters are towering over that warrior. Then the warrior picks up a fire-covered sword and hits the ground, and the resulting explosion destroys the entire area. Then the vision ends and the element is displayed on the sword. A bright light comes out, but less than half, and people make fun of him. Glenn keeps watching silently. Sylvia gives him assurance of having done well and takes him back to the seat. People laugh at how the result of a descendant of House Sieghart could be so low. They also mock Sylvia for just giving her son golden hair and crimson eyes. Glenn orders everyone to be quiet and announces the end of the ceremony. After the crowd leaves, Glenn and his personal butler remain in the room with the Sword of Discernment. Glenn thinks that Raon's situation cannot be helped. Suddenly, a bright fire erupts from the sword, and Glenn looks closely. The fire reaches the peak surrounding the sword, which no one saw in the ceremony. Glenn is stunned and notices that this light is golden like the sun. According to records, such light only happened in the ceremony of the founder of House Sieghart, where the transcendental aura was so fierce that even the flames of the demon realm could melt. Such gold-colored mana has appeared only once in history, so its appearance now is shocking. Glenn keeps looking at that blinding light for a while and feels that Raon is responsible for it, but it is not understood why. 7 years after the discernment ceremony, the system window shows Raon's stats. The curse is still there. Stamina is bad. Athletic ability is weak and mana affinity is also poor. But he has gained some water resistance, which reduces the stiffness of his limbs. He seems very close to his third flame link and is now 12 years old. A little later, his mother reminds him that today they have to go to the next discernment ceremony. Because of his previous experience, Raon is not excited because he will have to face the same troubles again. A little while after reaching there, the ceremony for the new batch is completed. Raon feels that this year's ceremony was unusually fast. Before the ceremony ends, the Lord calls him and asks why he didn't answer the summons for basic training which was sent a month ago. Raon didn't know anything about basic training. So his mother answers on his behalf. She had received the summons but didn't tell Raon. She pleads with the Lord that Raon is not like other children and will not be able to endure training due to the frost in his body. Her plea has no effect on Lord Glenn. He says that there are no exceptions on Sieghart land nor the right to refuse. According to Glenn, one who cannot walk should crawl for training. That is the Sieghart way. Sylvia says in shock that she cannot accept such conditions. Glenn asks if she intends to leave the house again as she did before. He says follow the rules or leave the house. The crowd excitedly starts talking about her old departure. Raon doesn't like his mother being mocked. From the murmuring, he learns that they dislike Sylvia because she had left the house. She destroyed her core and mana circuits even though she had learned Sieghart swordsmanship and lost her aura. She did all this to marry her lover who died right after Raon was in the womb. After that, she had no choice and returned home. The family looked at her with contempt because she had given up her place in the main family. Raon clearly knows that he cannot join the crowd in putting his mother down. Suddenly, despite his mother's protests, he steps forward and talks to the Lord, saying that he will join the training next month. This is opposed by Denier Sieghart, the head of the Palace of Elders. He says that he didn't know anything beforehand, and basic training is not easy despite its name. Quick reminder, if you're enjoying this Manhwa recap so far, please hit that like button and subscribe to Anime YouTube 999. Your support is what keeps this channel growing and allows me to bring you more epic stories. Now back to the action, let's see what happens next. Raon insists and says that he will undergo the training so that he can prove himself worthy of the Sieghart name. The Lord does not like his words because the Sieghart name is a heavy responsibility. Glenn releases his aura, which is enough to crush his bones, and blood comes out of Raon's mouth. Raon realizes that this pressure is even heavier than his previous master Darud. In pain, he tries to endure it by clenching his fists. But in the end, he collapses. Sylvia and the maid Helen pick him up. Denier pleads with the Lord to take back the spiritual force. He says that Raon is a child and does not understand the weight of his words. Glenn does not listen to anyone and he says he should be allowed to speak. Sylvia continues pleading. She says her son is not ready for training and that he should take back the aura. Raon pulls away from his mother's grip and thinks that in his previous life he lived in darkness. He used to stay hidden in the shadows. Now he wants to make this life better, especially to bring back Sylvia's lost place. He goes to the Lord and admits that he does not know the weight of the Sigurd name because he was raised in the annex, not in the main house. He declares that he will participate in the training and understand what this place is like. Responsibility awakens for Sylvia, Helen, and the people helping in the annex. Taking an interest, the Lord asks if he wants to decide the value of the Sigurd name based on the training. Rayon says yes, that is his only way. Glenn says he will order the instructor to prepare the best so that Rayon is not disappointed. The Lord's aura falls on him again and he falls to the ground. In his mind, it is only that by combining assassin experience and flame rings, he will stand here. Even while falling, he swears that the pebble that was mocked would become the most strong stone. At the same time, at the training center, Karun Sigurd, the head of the Palace of Warriors, talks to the guard. He had received news that Rayon was sick and incapacitated. The guard confirms that many maids in the annex had heard the conversation between the saint and the Lord, and it is certain that Rayon's health is serious. Karun had seen Rayon as unstable during the ceremony. But he cannot find the answer to how he endured the Lord's aura. He thinks that Sylvia's potential was unique, which explains her son's capability. Finally, Karun orders the guard to send someone to the annex so that everything there can be monitored. Meanwhile, Rayon overworks as usual, and Sylvia reminds him that she had warned him not to do so. Sometime later, at the 5th Sigurd training ground, Lord Glenn comes to meet Instructor Lemur, whom he catches pretending to sleep. Glenn picks him up and taunts him that he has not matured in 50 years. Since Lemur is an elf, he does not age, so he has not truly changed. Lemur suspects that Glenn has come to talk about his grandson and says bluntly that Sylvia had just come, and he will not make any concessions in the training because Glenn has given him absolute control. Glenn says that he has not come to plead, but rather to ask to maintain or raise the standards so that the weak can be weeded out. Lemur thinks Glenn is finding an indirect way to show love for his grandson. Glenn laughs and says that if he were not an old companion, he would have decapitated him. Lemur remains curious about Rayon. Meanwhile, Rayon completes his 3rd flame link, which raises his body and soul rank, constitution and dexterity, mana affinity, focus, stamina and water resistance increase to 3 stars. Another benefit is that a strand of the curse of frost has disappeared. This message brings him joy, and it is clear that he achieved this by working hard but not overworking, a process in which his mother helped him. The magical status window is also helping speed up his growth. However, all of this is nothing compared to the intense training that is about to take place in Sigurd. This 3-star flame link is merely the foundation upon which he will build his house. His plan is to show extraordinary accomplishments so that the mocking voices are silenced forever, and then fulfill his revenge by eliminating Darius Robert. Thinking about this, his mother comes to talk to him at night because he is leaving for basic training the next day. She asks if he truly has to go, as she fears Rayon will push himself even through pain and become seriously injured during training. His mother suggests that he wait just 1 more year. But Rayon says he cannot do that. His reason is that he cannot stand to see the people of the main and branch families looking down on his mother and treating those in the annex as objects of pity, and he believes that if he performs well in training, he can put an end to all of this. Hearing his words, Sylvia is emotional and surprised that he is so thoughtful regarding their situation. She tells him that she met his father by chance on a mission, but living with him was difficult because he was merely an ordinary knight. To gain his love, she had to destroy her core and mana circuits and leave her family. Rayon had an older sister Sia. While living a peaceful life with her husband, a group called the Cadre of Eden recognizes Sylvia and they launch a sudden attack. She was pregnant, and since her husband was not powerful enough, they could do nothing. She saw her family die before her eyes before the secret team sent by her father could save her. Due to the distance, the team could not arrive quickly, and when they did, her husband and daughter were already dead. It was unsafe to remain alone, so she had to return home, and that is why she became the scapegoat of the Sigurd house. Upon returning, she had no excuse for her father. Hearing her story, Rayon understands that she threw away her family responsibility for her own happiness and later returned to save her own life. This is why the Sigurd people hate her. But for Rayon, she is the woman who gave him life and showed him love for the first time. In 2 lifetimes, she is his first mother. Therefore, he cannot behave the way others do. Suddenly, he asks if Sylvia regrets leaving home. Sylvia says no. As a Sigurd, she always felt invisible, and it was only after leaving home that she felt like an individual. She cherished that time and is happy to have Rayon. Her only regret is that she could not be a very good mother to him. Rayon assures her that she no longer needs to worry. Suddenly, Sylvia begins to cry loudly, and Rayon calms her down, wondering why she is crying. After calming her, Rayon returns to his room to inspect the status of the flame links because the next day is basic training. While inspecting, a strange phantom creature appears in his room. It says that the time has finally come and explains that it arrived upon reaching boiling rage. Its name is Wrath, the second ruler of the demon world who has come to fulfill revenge. It states the terms and conditions in which Rayon must sacrifice his body and soul. However, it is shocked to find that it has been summoned by a child. Rayon is also surprised and both begin asking each other questions. Wrath is unwilling to believe that a child could generate such rage. But after investigating, it changes its opinion. It tells Rayon to submit his soul so that revenge can be executed. But Rayon refuses its help. He says he will complete his revenge with his own two hands because he must take Darius's head himself. Changing its tone, Wrath says this is not a negotiation. The demon world has made a decision and it will take what it wants. In a frenzy, the creature surrounds him with cold fire and attempts to forcibly enter his body. From the impact, Rayon's body and mind begin to freeze. The spirit gives him an incentive. Whether it be God himself, Rayon is able to endure the chill because of his increased water resistance. But the being is not just attacking with cold. It is also increasing his inner rage. The spirit taunts him that they will crush his enemies' heads and eat their flesh. He just needs to surrender his body. Rayon is afraid that Sylvia or the maids will not be safe if he does this. Finally, the creature becomes impatient and says that they were trying to save his body but now they will devour him directly. The pressure increases so much that Rayon feels he will break and shatter. Before breaking, he gets the idea to use the flame links to reduce the burden as water resistance did against the chill. He activates his fire link and bright light bursts from his body, which puts the spirit in shock. It says in rage how a mere human child can endure their pressure. Rayon repeats that he will take revenge himself and will not give his body to any spectre. Wrath becomes furious when it hears itself called a spectre and asks how he can insult the ruler of the demon world. Rayon mocks that it is not that great because it is not able to defeat him. Wrath understands that its full strength has not returned. Then a message of a new skill unlocking appears on the screen. The system windows fill Wrath with rage, who claims that the system is its power. Rayon asks what is its relation with the message and status windows, and the spirit says that they created the system. Rayon further wants to find out why the system was created, but Wrath tells nothing. When Rayon asks if the system was made to speed up growth, then Wrath's expression changes and Rayon understands that the answer is yes. The effects of the flame links are now even stronger than in the previous life. This was its purpose. When Wrath demands surrender the body or give back the system, Rayon throws a mana-packed punch. But there is no effect. Wrath understands that it is futile to control him now, so it wraps itself around Rayon's hand and turns into a bracelet. It does this because it has been only a short time since the seal broke and its true power has not yet returned. Its plan is to wait until the power returns and then take its place. Rayon considers removing the bracelet but understands that the system might disappear or the spirit might harm Sylvia or Helen. Therefore, he considers it better to keep it close so that he can keep it under control. Rayon asks why it became such a flowery bracelet, and Wrath insists that it is its choice. The next day, Sylvia remains tense and Helen consoles her. Rayon comes out ready to go and gloom is visible on the faces of both women. Helen advises him not to overexert himself and he promises. Sylvia remains sad for a while. Then she tells Rayon to give his best. After he leaves, Sylvia wants assurance from Helen that her child will be fine. Helen says that Rayon's health has improved a lot and it is possible he will complete the training. Hearing this gives some relief to Sylvia, who had taken a promise from him while crying inside for a long time that he would not overwork or hurt himself. A little later, many children gather at the entrance of the 5th training ground and talk among themselves. Over there, Rayon is standing alone thinking that on the training ground there are not only members of the main and branch families but also vassal families and those outsiders who have received recommendations. Some boys gossip about Rayon's weak limbs and ask mockingly why he doesn't run away from the training. They also comment on his flowery bracelet, which makes Wrath furious, and it showers curses on them. But they are lucky that they cannot see it. Hearing their talk, Rayon goes to them and asks why they don't say it to his face instead of crying behind his back. The boys are shocked and become defensive. They ask how a child from the branch family living confined in the annex can talk to them like that, even though they themselves are from the branch. When Ryan points out that such words are spoken only by those who consider themselves above others, the boys get even more furious, and one of them grabs his collar, threatening to remind him of his place. A mad glint appears in Ryan's eyes, and he cracks his knuckles. But just then, a child from the main family stops them. He is Warren Sigart, the same prodigy who was tested before Ryan in the first discernment ceremony. Warren scolds the boys, asking if they want to embarrass the family in front of outsiders. The boys immediately apologize. After this, Warren approaches Ryan and asks if he still doesn't know his place. He says proudly that Ryan is just dust that he can sweep away whenever he wants and that he should keep his head bowed. Otherwise, he will be kicked out even from the annex. For Warren, Ryan is here because he took advantage of the opportunity in the discernment hall, not because of any skill. He calls him a failure who is just waiting to be removed. As he leaves, he says that if he doesn't intend to participate in the training, then he should stay away, because there is no guarantee of passing. Before Warren can leave, Ryan taunts him, saying he should have put more enthusiasm into his nonsense. He says that being a member of the main family doesn't make him important because he has no rank or authority. He jokes that his only option is to complain to his father. Warren turns red and can only say, "How dare you?" Just then, the instructor Lemaire appears by breaking down the door. He is amused by the fact that the children have already started fighting. Ryan, who didn't know who the instructor would be, recognizes him as the Sword of Light, who had retired due to core damage. Lemaire separates the boys and tells them to fight after the admission ceremony. During the ceremony, he introduces himself. A total of 160 people are participating in the training, which, in his opinion, is far too many. Therefore, he says that he will reduce them to only 1/4 through a test. The children get scared that so many people will be out on the very first day. Lemaire says that his word is law, and if they want to complain, they should go to the head of the house. Soon, the stamina and focus test begins, and the children start running on the track. The instruction is to keep running at full speed until Lemaire stops them. Rath asks why Ryan is lagging behind when he could move forward. Ryan thinks that this is not a competition, so there is no need to be faster than others, especially when the instructor will be looking for resilience and temperament. He is sure that the winner of this test will be the one who endures until the end, and he will endure. The instructors notice that Warren and Runan are in the lead, and their ability at such a young age shows future potential. When they look at Ryan, they understand that he is impressive despite being sick, but they predict that he will soon fall. Lemaire keeps watching him calmly. According to him, he can see the colors and threads of the children's personalities. But for Ryan, he is unable to discern anything, which only happens when someone's potential is beyond his understanding. The boys in front turn back to look and mock him, saying Ryan won't last another 10 minutes. Ryan thinks that this training is just running. Whereas in his past life, starving beasts were set upon them and they ran to save their lives. Even after some time has passed while they are running, Lemaire is surprised that Ryan is still running, even though his stamina had run out long ago. This is something more than determination, because his body is already empty. This kind of focus is found in those who have faced torment and death many times. Warren notices that Ryan is still hot on his heels and wonders how a sick child can do this. He had heard from his father and the guard that Ryan was sick. Getting angry, Warren uses his aura to show everyone that they are not equals. He pulls ahead, leaving only Runan and Ryan behind. To Ryan, Warren seems immature, whereas Runan is calm. Ryan does not try to get ahead of anyone because this is not a race. Other students are falling along the way. Some ask, "Who is this Ryan?" And some are jealous that he is running like this even while being sick. Someone asks if he doesn't get tired. Ryan laughs internally because the chill inside him is killing him every moment, and his heart and lungs are about to collapse. He manages to squeeze a little stamina from the flame link. Sensing his condition, Rath goads him to surrender his body so that he can crush Warren. Rath hits him with a cold attack, which makes his condition even worse. But Ryan pretends that everything is fine. Rath is certain that no human can endure this. Ryan knows that if he shows weakness, the spirit will devour him. Even as he loses his vision, breath, and body control, he keeps running. Just as he is about to collapse, the instructor's voice stops the test. Warren looks at him with contempt because he didn't give up until the end. Meanwhile, Runan looks at him with interest. Rath is surprised that the cold didn't do anything. Ryan reminds him that he had told him not to waste the training. Rath's attack actually strengthened his flame links because he had to push his body to the limit. Just then, the screen shows that the intense movement condition has been met and his strength, dexterity and constitution increase. This makes Rath even more furious. After the children gather, Lemire praises everyone's hard work and reveals that what he said at the beginning about reducing the number to 1/4 was a lie. He says that it is not wise to fail so many people on the first day, and he never said that this specific test would be the one where most would fail. But he warns them that if they treat the training like they did today, many of them will surely fail. Especially since he had asked them to run at full speed, and only Warren, who secretly used aura, ran at full speed until the end. He instructs them to follow his orders seriously or they will fail, as the training will not be easy. From that moment on, they become temporary trainees until the 6-month exam, and only after passing will they be called permanent. At the end of the 6 months, Lemire will also choose a valedictorian from among them. Later, Lemire goes to take a nap on a large rock in the nearby forest. But Lord Glen meets him there. Glen asks about the test and is told that Warren and Runan have great potential as expected, and the other children could also become pillars of House Sigurd in the future. The only problem is Ryan, because Lemire can't see anything in his case. He mentions that Ryan ran until the end even after his stamina was exhausted, and this is the second time it has happened in his career. The first time was with Master Glen. For Lemire, this situation is a source of amusement because he had been very bored after his core was destroyed. As Glen is leaving, Lemire says that someone will emerge from this batch upon whom he can trust his future. Glen calls it a coincidence and insists that the child cannot become a swordsman. But Lemire is not ready to accept that. Meanwhile, as soon as the training ends, Ryan heads towards the Saints' training room, which some boys overhear. An argument starts among them about how Ryan was able to run for so long when it is confirmed that he is sick. Crane Sigurd of the Branch family says he heard that the elder gave him an elixir, and that was the trick. The boys get angry that Ryan left them behind using an elixir. They decide to teach him a lesson, and after a while, they catch him and shove him against a tree. Ryan cannot understand why they are suddenly attacking him. The boys say they are angry that a boy cast out from the main family is showing himself to be superior by using an elixir. Cracking their knuckles, they say they just want to talk. Rath gets furious and wants to smash their heads. Before he can say anything, Ryan, who is a maniac on the inside, beats up the 3 boys and leaves them in a terrible state. This scene looks so beautiful that Rath almost blushes. When the boys beg for mercy on the ground, Ryan asks if Warren instigated them. The boys state that Warren has nothing to do with this, which Ryan finds hard to believe because he knows Warren hates him. Once confirmed, he threatens them that if they tell anyone about this conversation or come near him again, things will be even worse. The boys run away in fear, thankful that they survived. Meanwhile, Lemire, who was watching everything from behind a tree, enjoys the scene and feels as if he is watching a young Glen. This strengthens his suspicion that Ryan is an unknown potential hidden among the great potentials. Upon reaching home, the system notifies him that by making Rath happy, he has achieved a new condition and his dexterity increased by 1. As always, this drives Rath crazy that points are awarded just for making him happy, and he calls the system nonsense. When Ryan reminds him that he was the one who created the system, Rath says that this is new to him because his system was never stolen. Amidst the verbal abuse, when Ryan doesn't pay attention, Rath gives him an offer. He can earn additional points in stats if he wins or if he loses by absorbing his rage to obtain points. The condition is that he must achieve the first rank in the training exam, just as Lemire said. If he wins, he will get a random attribute whose rank will be adjusted according to his weak body. If he loses, he will receive a bit of Roth's rage, which will be small now but could become uncontrollable in the future, as the spirit states the terms up front. Ryan understands that he is not lying. The reward is far greater than the risk. It is a poisoned apple. But his past experience gives him the confidence to win. He accepts the offer. At the acceptance, Rath grins, thinking that his plan to slowly own Ryan's body has begun. Sometime later, the children go through another exercise. They are exhausted after running and are now doing horse dances. Lemire motivates them, saying that this is the foundation of all schools and everyone must do it. He tells them to maintain the position until he stops them, and then he goes to sleep himself to give them an incentive not to quit. He reminds them that they will be the ones taking the final test, not him. Some students complain that exhausting exercises are being held and they want to learn the sword. When the exercise ends, Warren calls some boys to practice sword techniques because basic training might ruin their swordsmanship. Roth tells Ryan to join them, but Ryan believes that learning the sword at their current level is useless. Stamina and strength are needed, not sword training, especially for him because he has the curse of bitter frost. He needs to focus on the basics. Ryan is working out in the gym and Runan Sloan of the Vassal House stalks him. She is shocked that he increased his weight so much in just a few days, even though he was said to be sick. She doesn't understand how Ryan is growing so fast, and she thinks that maybe he is using a different stance. As her curiosity grows, she approaches him but says nothing. Her gaze bothers Ryan. After watching for a while, she sits on another weight and starts lifting weights herself. Seeing this, Ryan gets freaked out and leaves her alone. He moves to other weights. But Runan keeps following him. She remembers that she had previously caught a scent from Ryan that made her body feel light and allowed her to lift more weight than her normal limit. Ryan asks if she has something to say, but Runan clearly says no. She silently decides that she will follow Ryan everywhere. After a while, Warren and the boys enter the gym and are irritated to see that Runan is hanging around with a boy who was kicked out of the main family. Repetitive basic training is pointless, and he believes that Ryan is doing all this because of his weak body and will never be able to reach their superior quality. He rallies the boys for swordsmanship practice for the upcoming test, and they are sure the exam will show who is right, him or Ryan. Sometime later, a boy named Dorian respectfully asks Ryan if he can train with him as he has noticed Runan following him. Dorian is not a Sigart but is from an outside family. Ryan reluctantly gives permission. An excited Dorian gives him a biscuit. Ryan is about to return it in suspicion when he sees Runan staring at the biscuit with hungry eyes. Her innocent dog-like face scares Ryan, so he gives in and hands her the biscuit. Gradually, the three of them start working out together. They stay close even while running, and a bond begins to form. After some time, flower time arrives. It is said that pay comes in packs but training continues. 6 months of basic training have passed, and Ryan runs every day as if his life depends on it. By this time, he easily leaves everyone else behind in running, except for Runan and Warren. Time passes and the day of the exam arrives. Parents and guardians from different places come to watch their children's performance. They gather in a large arena and Lemire addresses them. In the crowd, Sylvia, Helen and Lord Karun are also seen sitting. During this, Rath reminds Ryan of their wager. He is sure that Ryan will lose and accept his rage because during training he was unable to surpass Runan and Warren. Ryan brushes him off, saying that the exam is a different game and you never know what might happen. A little later, Runan and Ryan find Dorian in a corner. They find themselves shrunken, frightened by the exam results. The bonding between Ryan and Runan is clearly visible when she randomly gives him a biscuit. Looking at the people around him, Ryan thinks that he only attracts strange people. On the other hand, Helen and Sylvia are happy that their boy was able to proudly stick to the training for 6 months and also made some friends. Just then, the arrival of the head of house is announced and everyone is surprised because he has come to this event for the first time. Lumiere also expresses surprise at the Lord's arrival and Glenn replies that this exam decides the future of the house. Therefore, the Lord's presence here is mandatory. As soon as the Lord sits down, Lumiere decides to start the trainee selection exam. But first, he has to tell them what the exam is because he hasn't told anyone before. Suddenly, Lumiere releases a storm and says that the exam is to pierce through his spiritual force. He explains that fighters cannot escape spiritual force and this is a test of the strength of their spirit. Nearby, the guardians protest that the children do not even know how to use aura properly yet and now they are being made to face spiritual force. Lumiere, tired of their complaints, explains that spiritual force is not a manifestation of aura but rather the rank of the soul which is formed from a warrior's experiences and accomplishments. A true warrior does not need aura. The protest increases, but Lord Glenn speaks up and says that Lumiere is not wrong. Warriors, whether they have aura or not, develop their unique spiritual force based on their lives. Through intense training, even those without aura can become formidable. A silence falls at the Lord's words. Lumiere says if there are no more complaints, let the exam begin. First, Runan is called. Lumiere tells her that the spiritual force she will face can be overcome if she has given everything in training. He releases a fierce force on her, which makes her tremble. She is warned that she will be immediately disqualified if she uses aura. She only has mental fortitude. Despite the opposing force, Runan struggles and reaches Lumiere's hand. She almost falls, so Lumiere supports her and praises her hard work. Next, Dorian is called, who is soaked in sweat due to fear. He also has to do the same, but he feels that he does not have mental strength. He reminds himself that as soon as things get hard, Warren takes the help of Aura, and if he uses Aura here, he will fail. Warren cannot fail. He remembers his father's coldness, who had harshly scolded his elder brother. He feels that if he fails, his father will also abandon him. He moves forward with all his strength and finally catches Lumiere's feet. Nearby, Lumiere advises him that he is only 12 years old and should stop pretending to be mature and do age-appropriate training. The last name is called Ryan Sigurd. As he steps forward, a fierce spiritual force falls on him and he almost loses his balance. But the intensity of the force is much higher than the other children, which makes Sylvia and Helen worried. Even Lord Glenn is shocked. Ryan himself thinks, is this really his exam? Lumiere is doing this because he saw more potential in Ryan than in Runan and Warren. He says, put in all your strength. Here it's not the physical form but the expanse of the soul that matters. The advantage for Ryan is this. He does not just have the soul of Rowan Sigurd but also the experience of the assassin Ryan. Surprisingly, he moves forward, cutting through the spiritual force and catches the Lord's attention. Unlike the others, Ryan does not falter. He reaches straight to Lumiere and pushes him back. The scene is so shocking that the crowd stands up. Lumiere and Lord Glenn are stunned. Ryan asks with a smile, "Did I pass?" Others cannot believe that this sick boy could do so much. Karun is also shocked. Lumiere remains stunned for a while, thinking, how did a sick child who cannot use aura endure so much? Finally he asks, "What are you exactly?" Ryan answers calmly, "My name is Ryan. The same child you've been watching for 6 months. Lumiere protests that he had put much more spiritual force on Ryan than his capacity so that he could see him struggling. Therefore, it should not have been possible for him to pierce through it. Ryan's simple shrug at his words irritates him further. Soon, the time comes for Lumiere to announce the results of the exam and the name of the promised top trainee. Warren and his father become tense when Lumiere announces Ryan's name as the top trainee. Sylvia and Helen burst out in joy, with tears in their eyes that their Ryan came first. People discuss these shocking results. Just then, Warren says in a loud voice that he cannot accept these results because they are rigged. Lumiere is shocked by his accusation, and then Warren says arrogantly that he is superior to Ryan in strength, constitution and potential. When he speculates that Ryan must have used some trick or spell, some people start supporting him, saying, how can Ryan do this without the curse of bitter frost and aura? The protest increases so much that even Lumiere's straightforwardness is called into question. Finally, Warren proposes that the matter be settled by direct combat. Lumiere observes that Warren is doing all this because he wants to get the top rank title and leaves the decision to Lord Glenn. The Lord asks Ryan if he is ready to spar so that it can be proven that the results are true. Ryan says that he will not spar because the results have been declared and it will be of no benefit to him. To settle the score, the Lord proposes that they spar for the top trainee title, and upon winning, Ryan will get a bronze medal. This catches Ryan's attention because the gold, silver and bronze medallions given by the Sigurd house provide valuable rewards. This offer convinces him. The rules are set. 1 round, use of weapons and aura is forbidden. Only the physical body will be used. The spar begins and Warren punches rapidly, which Ryan dodges near his nose. Warren is shocked and kicks, which Ryan blocks. Warren proudly states that the name of his technique is Charging Tiger Technique, which his father taught him, and he continuously attacks Ryan. The crowd believes that Ryan will not be able to retaliate. Warren's pain is that a boy from a weak branch family is challenging him. In his mind, it's just spinning that his father is watching and he has to prove it. Ryan continuously blocks or dodges because he is studying Warren's attacks and flow and finally understands them. When Ryan suddenly halts, Warren thinks he has given up. Warren moves forward for the final strike. But Ryan matches that same punch with his own punch. Warren's arm jerks back and Ryan lands a crushing punch in his stomach, from which his breath and spit come out. This turn of events shocks the crowd and Warren's father. Lord Glenn is also stunned at how Ryan countered with the Charging Tiger Fist. Warren asks how he learned the technique. Ryan says calmly, "You showed it and I imitated it." Whispers start in the crowd that how did this brat learn so quickly? Warren has still not been able to recover, and Lumiere understands that Ryan is the real deal. He thinks how Ryan nullified the Charging Tiger with a reverse spin. Just by seeing it, in his eyes, this is the talent that Sigurd was looking for, who could stand at the peak of the continent. After a while, Ryan's victory is declared because the results are in front of everyone. Sylvia cannot stop herself and hugs Ryan with tears. Runan's father also hugs her. On the other hand, Warren only finds his butler. His father turns his back just as he feared most. That night, a heavy silence hangs in Warren's house. Finally, his father asks if he remembers that he had forbidden him from bringing anything but the top rank and from losing to anyone. He asks if Warren wants to embarrass him by performing worse than a low-born brat and a failure's son. He reminds him that he has already lost one chance and the only chance for redemption is to bring the title in the last exam of graduation. He leaves, and Warren understands that to live the life of the main family, he cannot waste the last chance. Anger forces him to blame Ryan. He doesn't understand how he lagged behind despite his hard work. Wandering in anger, he reaches the gym, which is empty. Near the lockers, he peeks into Ryan's locker and is shocked. There are about 10 pairs of shoes, and he has worn them all out in 6 months. He remembers how many times he used to see Ryan training until he was exhausted in the gym. While he himself was busy in sword swinging or was resting, Warren understands that Ryan was showing the true Sigurd attitude and not him. He quietly puts everything back and leaves. Sometime later, Roth, who lost the wager, says while swearing that he hasn't seen a person like Ryan in his long existence. He asks what Ryan is exactly, but gets no answer. Just then the screen notifies that Ryan has won the wager. All his stats have increased by 2 and he has received the attribute of the night, awareness of the snowflower. Roth says that this is a godly attribute, but a waste for this weak body. This skill increases the range of senses, but being 1 star it's only up to 8%. Roth proudly tells that because of the system he could increase his senses 10 times. Ryan finds the name strange and mocks Roth's test, which makes the spirit furious. After some time, a message comes from the main building that the Lord has summoned Ryan. This makes Sylvia tense, but the butler says not to worry. Lord Sigurd himself is going to give him the bronze medal. On reaching the throne room, Lord Glenn looks dissatisfied with the whole situation, but he gives the medallion, keeping his promise. Ryan is told that he can return this and ask for any appropriate reward. Ryan immediately asks what he would have to do so that his mother could be returned to her original place. The Lord is shocked when Glenn clarifies if he wants his mother back in the main family. Ryan says yes. Glenn tells him it's possible if he brings such an achievement that the whole house accepts. But it's easier said than done. To get recognition in the Sigurd house is like touching the moon. Especially, the challenge for an inexperienced child excites Ryan. He thanks Glenn, returns the bronze medallion and starts to leave. The Lord stops him and says that he could have gotten a direct answer from his medallion and his reward is still not claimed. Ryan suddenly remembers what he needs most right now. Therefore, he asks for a cultivation technique. But he is told that the instructors will teach him in basic training. Our boy says that he wants an aura cultivation technique higher than basic training because he wants a technique worthy of a bronze medallion. The shadow cultivation technique from his previous life is not enough for him, and to bring Sylvia back and take Darius's head, he needs a stronger technique. Lord Glenn cracks his fingers and suddenly a mysterious library opens, in which hundreds of books are seen towering. Ryan is stunned. Lord Glenn tells him that this is only a small part of the Sigurd bookshelves, and he just has to stand in the center and raise his hands so that the book he needs the most will choose him. Ryan hopes that this new technique will be better than the shadow technique. Suddenly, a book comes out of the shelf and lands in his hands. The book is very old and worn out. But seeing the book that has been chosen, Lord Glenn and his butler are left in shock. The Lord thinks, how did Ryan get that same book? Just then, flames come out of the book and surround Ryan, and he thinks, what is the connection of this with the cultivation technique? As soon as Ryan opens the book, an explosive light bursts. The Lord is also astonished seeing the fire. Suddenly, a vision emerges in front of Ryan, in which a guard reports to Lord Glenn that Sylvia has left the house. The Lord says in a cold voice that it doesn't matter to him. The growth of the family comes first. The vision tells that last time the Lord considered emotions a luxury, and only thinking about the house's growth, he achieved martial power that went beyond the limits of demons. But he paid for it with his human emotions. Then news comes that his daughter's family has been killed, and Lord Glenn trembles. At that moment he gets his emotions back, but there is no way to turn back time. He decides that no matter if the world hates him, he will protect the child this time. Ryan is confused about what kind of book this is. Suddenly the book disappears and its essence fills Ryan's body. The Lord calls him and asks what did he just do. Ryan just says that he doesn't know, but he remembers the entire content of that technique. The Lord tests him and asks the name of the technique, especially because he hasn't read the book. After a few moments of hesitation, Ryan says Million Flames technique. A screen immediately pops up that Million Flames has been burned into his memory and he has faced the flames of eternity. Lord Glenn confirms that Ryan remembers the technique and tells him that this was the reward worthy of the bronze medallion. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked this manhwa recap and want to see what happens next, I'll be bringing you the next part very soon. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel Anime YouTube 999 so you don't miss the update. See you in the next video.